Alright, everyone, welcome back. It's been a while. And it will be a maybe Q&A stream. Yeah, I know it says maybe Q&A, but I just mean Q&A stream. Yeah, I'm gonna steal some questions for you all. Yeah, give me a second to try this. Alright, back. I'm trying to delete these freaking photos I have because they're all right now. Yeah, and let's see. The first person is Grimlock. Welcome, Grimlock. And we have Evan McNall. Welcome, McNall. And the other one is Million Gucci. Yep. You seem right to have to go. Listen, oh, you gotta go well east, well street. So yeah. You know what? Because I'm so confused. Oops. What the fuck is going on? Let's see which people we have here. And we have Cardinal Zilla. Welcome. Two nights already. Cool. I'll do lunch right now. So yeah, if you want to send some questions in the live chat, just send it. Indeed. E. See, indeed E. E is a number. So, okay. Sorry, I'm good. I'm good doing some playing games, just doing nothing, just waiting till my mom comes back from work, I think. I'm doing probably, similar. Bro, people watching. Well, I'll be back in there watching One Piece, right? Oh, cool, One Piece. That's real. Some ball. Bells. Hmm. What the fuck? I'm so hungry right now. My chicken. Food. Fuck shit. Fuck shit. What the crap? Still hungry. Fuck. I'm going to get this. Fucking ball. Give me something. Yes, boy. Alright, I'm back, and what do I missed? Nothing, yeah, that's it. Where's the submarine battle? Sorry for burp shitties. Mm. You guys want to watch some Sean Chandler? Here's what that fucking dude rank some movies and a little bit some games. Mm. Next to Karen, what the fuck is that? Anything different? My YouTube category. What the shit? My watching. Oh, it's at this time, no fucking.
Guaranteed MasterCard.
Oh, shit.
$7,000 credit limit. And is
Ever since the release of Zack's Justice League and Spider-Man No Way Home, people have been asking me which of the Marvel and DC epic films do I like best. So today I'm going to rank all 39 MCU and DCEU films together. Hopefully you can join me down below in the comment section, share your ranking, and let's talk about it. Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. May is a month to raise awareness for mental health, fight stigma, and provide support for anyone struggling with mental health. If you're not familiar with my story, about 10 years ago, I had a 3-year stretch where I had some serious personal struggles, and I didn't know where to safely turn for help And because of that, I went to some really dark places and turned to alcohol to cope with the stresses of life. And the consequences of that just wrecked my life. You don't need to struggle alone. BetterHelp is available. BetterHelp provides online therapy that includes video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. They're more affordable than traditional offline therapy, and you can apply for financial aid during the sign-up process, and they accept HSA benefits. BetterHelp has over 20,000 therapists in their network. That means they have a broad range of expertise available to you. You just fill out the questionnaire to help assess your specific needs, and then you get matched with the therapist in under 48 hours. Then you schedule your secure video and phone sessions. Plus, you can exchange unlimited messages, and everything you share is completely confidential. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and if you're struggling with mental health or know someone who is, share BetterHelp with them. You can use my link to get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Sean Chandler. The link is down below in the description, and let's get started. In last place, Justice League 2017. This movie is kind of like the ultimate example of the studio system gone wrong.
Not gonna lie,
They
I did not
hired a
think
director
this
based
was
off of his vision,
You're
and
like,
then
what
after
the
he
fuck? Why
shot
does
the movie,
people
they
hate
got
it? There's
cold
no-
feet and
there's no
leveraged the
something
death
bad
of his
in this
daughter to replace him with a director whose style wasn't remotely compatible with the original director's style, then rushed the movie out by the end of the year so that they could get their bonuses, even though the visual effects weren't complete. And they mandated a runtime of under 2 hours. Thus, the movie is 1 hour and 59 minutes and 59 seconds.
That's awful. Just awful.
When I first saw the movie in the theater, I thought it was fun enough to see the Justice League on the big screen. But as soon as we learned everything that went on behind the scenes, this movie just became gross to me. Number 38, Suicide Squad. Much like Justice League, here the WB hired someone to make a movie and only gave him 6 weeks to write
What
it.
the fuck? I
And
saw
then,
that.
after Deadpool came out and they realized that people liked
Oh,
fun
hello,
comic book
Toy
movies
Story
that were for
Boys
adults,
channel.
and the first trailer had a
you
rock and
doing?
roll soundtrack, they got this bright idea. What if we re-edited the movie to be more like Deadpool and that trailer? And they literally had the people that cut the trailer rework the movie to be totally different.
And you
I think the
seen
cast
this
here
movie, but
is
a
pretty
little
good.
bit-
The actual idea of the characterizations,
Like,
they
what the
work,
fuck?
but the movie that they delivered, the storytelling
It's a
are
little bit
wildly
bad.
incoherent, and they use the soundtrack to replace actual storytelling and character development, another basic abomination of the studio system. Next up, Eternals. Fresh off winning Best Picture and Director Oscars for Nomadland, Chloe Zhao delivered one of the most ambitious, beautiful, and polarizing films in the MCU. Some people see it as a gorgeous exploration of broken heroes, and other people just see a
I'm not gonna lie,
mess.
I'm not gonna
For me,
fucking watch this
I
movie
can
in
respect
theaters
that
when
they
it come
tried
out.
to do something different and
Well,
ambitious,
I'm not gonna watch
but it
this
had too many
because
characters,
it's
too many
too
subplots,
bad,
and the way
so
they
bad.
decided to tell the story made the whole thing just kind of implode in on itself.
Inconceivable.
To me, this is a movie that should have been a 10-episode Marvel Disney Plus series. And if they'd done that, I think it would have been awesome. But as a standalone movie, it was just too much.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations.
Bro, Vader, what the fuck?
Number 36, Thor: The Dark World. The most thoroughly mediocre film in the entire MCU. It touches on a bunch of different things. It's Lord of the Rings in space. It's a rom-com. It's a buddy film. It's a dark tragedy. It's a space soap opera. But it doesn't do any of them in an interesting way or add anything to the genre. It's also a film that has a fairly straightforward plot line, but tells it in a way that's pretty confusing. And Malekith, the villain here, is the most utterly forgettable villain In either one of these two franchises, I could not tell you a single thing about him except he's a dark elf that wants the ether. The shots are in focus. It has plenty of star power, but there's just nothing memorable or interesting here at all.
Some things should work, but do they?
Then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, I know a number of you love this film and are thinking,
How dare you?
but for me, this was the most disappointing film in the entire MCU. The fresh humor of the first film is replaced with just mean-spirited humor. The tone jumps from wacky Looney Tune hijinks to patricide, a father killing thousands of his own children in a snap.
That escalated quickly.
And by delaying the reveal of Ego as the villain, it creates a story that doesn't have any urgency or danger until you jump into the third act and the climax of the film. I wanted to love this film, but instead it ended up breaking my heart.
Breaking my heart.
34, Wonder Woman 1984. Now, I kind of enjoyed this movie when I first saw it. It was December 2020. I was finally seeing a superhero movie on the big screen again. But the more time that passed, all I could think of were all the gigantic problems with this film.
Yes.
From the enormous lapses in logic to the very problematic way in which they decided to bring back Steve Trevor, to the main plot line and third act, which are just utterly ridiculous. This movie is just jam-packed with enormous problems and oversights in the way they put things together. There's a few great moments here and there. I can respect the ambition, but I can't overlook all the enormous problems anymore. Next up, Iron Man 2. After the wild success of the first film, Marvel Studios fast-tracked the sequel to come out in just 2 years, despite director Jon Favreau saying that they needed 3 years to make sure they got the script right.
Not a great plan.
The end result is a movie with a great cast and a script which simply
This movie
can't
was
decide
kinda
what
different.
direction it wants to go in, and thus every character has a main plot line, every character has a subplot, and it's just going in so many different directions. Therefore, there's no forward momentum, there's no exploration of any of them, and it's surprisingly light on action. This is a classic example of a great cast, a great crew trying to do the best with a subpar script. Number 32, Captain Marvel, an occasionally entertaining but wildly uneven addition to the MCU. Now, I actually kind of liked seeing a young Nick Fury who's less cynical, and the movie at times had an X-Files vibe to it that I totally dug, but the movie simply doesn't know what to do with its lead character.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Because she has amnesia, the whole movie, people are just telling her what to do and who she's supposed to be, what she's supposed to feel about herself. And she starts off super powerful and able to beat almost everybody up. By the end of the movie, she's even more powerful and able to beat absolutely everyone up. And so it's just not a compelling characterization or character arc. The movie is amusing at times, but that's about it. Then we have Spider-Man Far From Home. This is a movie that I find more entertaining than credible. It's kind of fun as a superhero movie, high school road trip film to Europe. It's fun to watch Jake Gyllenhaal having a blast as a fake hero, but the movie just falls apart on a story level. The basic premise of this film is that Tony Stark left a dangerous weapon to a high schooler who's been dead for 5 years without any instructions.
I've made a huge mistake.
Also, for the 7th time, an MCU villain is motivated by scorn for Tony Stark.
Baby, one more time.
Now, this is certainly a watchable enough film, but it just sacrifices way too much credibility to be satisfying for me. Kicking off the top 30, The Incredible Hulk. Given that Edward Norton never returned as the Hulk, the total difference is in that few plot points in this movie continued on in the rest of the MCU. This always feels like the black sheep of the franchise. In fact, every time I do an MCU ranking and include this film, someone tries to correct me and tell me The Incredible Hulk's not actually an MCU film. Yes, it is. Now, I don't think that this movie is a smash, but I do think that it's one of the more underrated films of the MCU and way overhated. I think each of the action sequences are diverse and exciting and interesting. I think there's some interesting character stuff that goes on with Bruce Banner on the journey that he's on. And while the story itself can be a little bit clunky at times, probably due to the film being reworked in the editing room, I do think it works overall. It's certainly not incredible, but it's not an abomination either.
I'm about to drink some mud.
Ew.
I think you should too.
No,
Go up
what
and
the
ask us why we are called mud water.
I understood that reference.
That'll bring us to Thor, a good movie with a great cast of newcomers and legacy actors, but one where you can feel the MCU trying to figure out how to balance the cosmic with the grounded, the humor with the seriousness, and that leads to a movie that can be very uneven in its tone as well as its storytelling. It's a film where there's all this Shakespearean grandeur in Asgard, and then it becomes this goofy fish out of water comedy as soon as Thor gets to Earth. Likewise, because the central conflict set up at the beginning of the film is about Thor and his ego, and that's what drives the plot, there's not a lot of stakes and urgency until all of a sudden you go into the third act, then there's this big, gigantic threat. And so there's a few things they were still trying to figure out at the time. It's a good watch. There's some great elements, but it never quite makes you go,
I like it.
I know, it's great.
Number 28, Avengers Age of Ultron. Here, Joss Whedon does a sequel, and he goes for more of everything. More characters, more plot lines, more action sequences, more one-liners. And this is an example of when more doesn't always mean better. The individual moments are just as good as the first film. The jokes might be just as funny, the action might be just as exciting, but where the movie struggles is with the story and the storytelling. There's so many different plot lines going on, and the way that the movie decides to communicate the information, it's not always clear. It doesn't have a nice flow to it. For that reason, I find this to be the most confusing film in the entire MCU. They swung for the fences, and they only got a single. Next up, Doctor Strange. Of all the movies in either one of these franchises, this is probably the film that has the most creative and spellbinding visuals. At times, it looks like Escher drawings turned into action sequences in live action. The visuals as we're seeing them are clear violations of nature and physics as we understand them. Kind of like a Fast and Furious movie. I don't want to die! Yeah, maybe that's a terrible comparison. But where this movie struggles for me is that this is where I can feel the MCU trying to take a character's backstory and mythology and just squish it into the MCU blockbuster origin story. Template, and something kind of gets lost in the process. And as much as I love Mads Mikkelsen, his character isn't given enough time to be developed to be compelling, so he's just another forgettable MCU villain. By the time you get to the end, the visuals and characters cast a much better spell than the story itself. Number 26, Black Widow. To kick off Phase 4, the MCU decided to release a long-lost Phase 3 movie that came out 5 years too late and after the title character had already died.
Wow, that was weird.
Still, I found it to be an enjoyable spy film whose stakes were more personal than epic. The real star here for me was actually Florence Pugh, who just stole every scene that she was in.
This thing you do when you look when you're fighting. It's a fighting pose. You're a total poser.
I'm a poser.
Now, Taskmaster turned out to be a total dud. The third act goes cartoonishly over the top in an otherwise grounded film, and the timing can make it feel a bit inconsequential. But that doesn't mean that I didn't have fun with it. Coming in at number 25, Iron Man 3. Now, this is a tricky one because as a subversive Shane Black superhero film, I think it works. Shane Black's dialogue fits Tony Stark's sarcasm and Robert Downey Jr.'s delivery perfectly. The action sequences are top-notch, and I think the relationship between Tony and the kid is a ton of fun. But as an MCU film, there are a number of problems here. A bunch of plot lines established in this film are just utterly abandoned by the time you get to Avengers Age of Ultron. And of course, there is the Mandarin twist that was so poorly received that they had to retcon it in a future film.
So I made a decision and it was wrong. It was a bad call, Ripley.
But if you can forgive the Mandarin twist, I think there's a lot to enjoy here. Number 24, Ant-Man and the Wasp. After Infinity War, audiences were antsy for something epic. But instead of upping the ante, they decided to increase the fun antics, and in doing so, made possibly the most lighthearted film in the MCU. Now, some might complain that the villains here pose an ant-sized threat, but that's part of the charm for me. It's a simple MacGuffin story about several different groups trying to track down an item and having a lot of fun in the process. And this movie set up possibly the greatest character arc in either one of these franchises.
How'd you do it, Scott? The card trick.
Sir,
Can you knock?
FBI.
This isn't trying to be the best comic book movie of all time, and it's certainly not. It's just trying to have a fun time, and I think it succeeds at that. Next up, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and this movie might be the polar opposite of Ant-Man and the Wasp, as Ant-Man and the Wasp had very low ambitions, was just trying to have some fun. And Batman v Superman is extraordinarily ambitious to a fault. It's trying to tackle all these big ideas about how would the world respond if superheroes suddenly emerged, and what would different factions do in light of it. And for all of its faults, I enjoy its ambitions, everything that it's trying to do. There's moments of greatness within it, and I think a bunch of things that I think are deeply flawed. At the end of the day, I've always respected it, but I also can see it's a very flawed. Number 22, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, a solid addition to the franchise that adds some new layers to the mythology and introduced some fun new characters. At its core, it has one of the best villains in the entire MCU, who's very complicated and misguided, but you can kind of understand where he's coming from. All throughout the film, you get some of the best fights in the entire MCU that pull from a bunch of different martial arts styles. And
discover rich, intense,
don't care about the
dark chocolate.
In types of Hong Kong cinema. Now, the thing holding this one back is that there is an over-reliance on CGI and spectacle. There's too much forced MCU humor, and I think it has an over-reliance on references to other films inside of the MCU. In the end, it's good, maybe very good. It's not quite great.
We were on the verge of greatness. We were this close.
Then we have Ant-Man, the MCU heist film. Now, this film might be one of the smallest scale films in either one of these franchises, but the movie uses that to its advantage, sometimes very literally. Now, the movie works almost entirely because of the charming cast. Paul Rudd is the superhero I never knew I needed, and Michael Douglas brings some gravitas to the film. Ants. Now, the plot line here is very familiar and feels derivative of the first Iron Man film, but I appreciate that it's unassuming fun that's very pleasant. A number of people have asked me to stop with the ant puns, but I can't. Starting off our top 20, Aquaman. Here, James Gunn fully embraces the inherent silliness of Aquaman, and in doing so, makes a globe-trotting adventure that's a lot of fun. Now here, he's certainly cooking with butter and sugar, and he's going for every form of cheap entertainment that you can, whether you're talking about pop music, where literally in the middle of the movie, a pop song will just suddenly appear. When that's not happening, you got one-liners, hero poses, all sorts of cheap entertainment. But it's entertaining, and that's what's most important. The story here is globe-trotting, and it blends together an origin story with a little bit of a Lion King under the water. There's a bunch of stuff in there. The action is shot with wide shots so you can see everything taking place. It's a weird mix. It shouldn't work as well as it does, but it's a movie that I'm entertained every single time that I watch it. That'll bring us to Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, this one is always a tricky one for me because I love the first hour of this movie where it tells Steve's origin story. There's this classic sense of nobility and old-fashioned values. The production design is phenomenal. The score is one of my absolute favorites of either one of these two franchises. And Steve is inspiring and compelling in a very traditional, old-fashioned sort of way. And I just love that. But every time it cuts to Red Skull, the movie just slows to a crawl because he's just dropping exposition. There's no sense of urgency or danger with the central plot line. And then when you get to the middle of the movie, it montages through World War II, which is essentially the villain plot line. And then you just jump into the third act, essentially. So it's a movie that I love a lot of this movie, but there are some issues with the overall story and flow, and I wish they could have balanced out the plot more. Number 18, Birds of Prey, in the unsufferably long title that kept changing, or simply Harley Quinn. Now, I know a ton of people went to go see this movie and hated it. Even a bunch of the friends I took to go see to watch it, they didn't like it. But I've watched it multiple times, and I've had fun with it every time. Now, what I appreciated about this film is that it's a small-scale story set in Gotham where, because Harley Quinn is telling the story, it's chaotic. She's an unreliable narrator. It rewinds, it fast-forwards. So for me, it played like a Guy Ritchie movie set in Gotham. Add to that, instead of going for big CGI spectacle, it's grounded practical action with real stunt work. So some of the fight sequences were done by the John Wick guys and were done very cool. Whatever problems other people had with it, I don't really share their criticisms. It worked well enough for me. Number 17, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. After 15 years, Sam Raimi finally returned to the comic book movie genre, and it shows. Now, the movie kicks off, and it's fairly standard, generic MCU tone. But as it goes along, it gets weirder, it gets more horrific, and it gets more Sam Raimi. They promised that this was going to be the first MCU horror film, and as much as the MCU can make a horror film, that's what they delivered. And in the mix, you also get a little bit of multiverse cameo fun thrown in there, some stuff that put a big, gigantic grin on my face. Now, the story and tone can be a little bit uneven, and there's not nearly as much madness as you'd expect from a movie with madness in the title. But I love the fact that Kevin Feige let Raimi get off the chain and go wild and do some weird, brutal, nasty stuff in the MCU.
Groovy.
Number 16, Thor Ragnarok. Coming off the utterly mediocre Thor the Dark World, Taika Waititi injected this movie with a double dose of humor and energy. From the characters to the color scheme to the score, everything is just oozing with vibrance. In many ways, this might be the funniest movie in either one of these franchises, and it showcases Chris Hemsworth's impeccable comedic timing, but everyone else gets to be really funny too. But it also pauses from time to time to actually have a little bit of emotional weight. Now, I will say the movie too often sacrifices dramatic tension for the sake of a cheap joke, and the treatment of the Warriors 3 is utterly inexcusable. Oops! But overall, this is a thoroughly entertaining film. Number 15, Shazam. When they announced this movie, I thought they'd kind of lost their minds. The initial trailers certainly didn't sell me on it, but once I watched it, I saw that it was one part big, one part superhero movie, and one part family drama, and all of it works largely because of Zachary Levi and the cast. When
you can watch this movie.
He's Shazam, this child turned into superhero. It can be really fun, but it also has moments of superhero antics that really work. But it also works as that family drama on multiple different levels, whether you're talking about the tragedy of the villain or this family of orphans kind of coming together and learning to trust one another. It actually just works as a family drama. Never when you put it all together, you get a movie that has big laughs, heroic moments, but also a big, gigantic heart. Next up, Black Panther, one of the most thematically rich films in either one of these two franchises, and it manages to both have the escapism and spectacle that you want, while also tackling ideas through story. Killmonger is one of the more interesting villains here because he's an evil person that needs to be stopped, but there's just enough truth in what he's communicating that he's able to win the moral victory and convince T'Challa and Wakanda to join his cause, just in a very different way. And of course, he does need to be stopped. Now, at the same time, I think the actual action itself in CGI, a little bit bland, but a movie that I think shows that you can do big comic book movies that have all the action, the excitement, the adventure, but also have something to say, and do it not by preaching, but through your story. Number 13, The Suicide Squad. When Disney fired James Gunn, DC was quick to snatch him up, and they hired him for what I think was a perfect fit, The Suicide Squad. Gunn is great with working with ensembles of very broken characters who find family by coming together. And he also combined it with like all these influences from 60s and 70s war movies, and in doing so does something that's fresh and original inside of a genre that's overpopulated with films, and also something that's so distinctly James Gunn. It has his humor, but it also has his ability to take these ridiculous, crazy, wacky, sometimes evil characters and give them a humanity at the same time, where you can actually care about a killer shark that rips people in half, finding friendship and family. That's something that James Gunn is so good at doing, and he does it with this film. Number 12, Spider-Man Homecoming. After a decade of Spider-Man doing this,
oh my god.
This he finally joined the MCU. Now, what I think is awesome about this film is that it gives us a high schooler's perspective on being a superhero as well as the MCU in general. Tom Holland is so good at playing this innocent kid who just happens to be a superhero. He wants to be a high schooler and have friends and fit in, but he also has this naive desire to be a superhero at the same time and doesn't understand all that that entails. Thrown into the mix is Tony Stark with a new role as a mentor to this kid, and it's just a fun little balance. Put it all together, and I think this is one of the most rewatchable films in the MCU. Number 11, Wonder Woman. When they first announced that they were trying to bring Wonder Woman to the big screen, I had no idea how they were going to take a character who flies around in an invisible jet, swings a lasso, and dresses in a suit that looks like the American flag. It just seemed like a sort of character that just doesn't translate well to the big screen. But Patty Jenkins and the DCU crew of the time figured it out and found a way to tell a story that explored big ideas about man's inhumanity to man while having a fish out of water element to it to add a little bit of levity and humor, and had some awesome action and visuals with characters that you actually cared about. It all worked and it all felt consistent. I wish I could have put this one even higher up on the list, but I think it loses steam when it moves into the final battle and it just gets very talky. So a movie that has two fantastic acts and then a bit of a lackluster third act that kind of pulls it back, but a lot of really wonderful stuff here. Bringing us into the top 10 is Spider-Man No Way Home, a film that is just jam-packed with moments that made me go,
That was awesome.
But also has a bunch of writing that made me think,
Brilliant but lazy.
now, just like everybody else, I freaked out when Andrew Garfield walked through a portal and then took his mask off, and that's followed almost immediately by Toby walking through a portal. And it turned out they weren't just cameos. They were a major part of 40% of this movie. It worked. So much of that stuff was so awesome. It was emotional. You felt it. I just think the setup for this movie about a spell going wrong because Peter Parker wouldn't shut up and Doctor Strange was indulging the impulses of a high schooler was just too lazy. I love so much of this movie. It's so satisfying. It's so special. It's fan service done right that feels earned, that pays off properly. I just wish they'd put as much time writing the setup as they did the payoff. Coming in at number 9, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. At a point in time when the MCU was starting to put more humor into their films, kind of moving for a broader appeal, trying to get younger audiences, they also put out this film, a movie inspired by 1970s political thrillers that's more mature in its storytelling, its plotting, and what it's trying to explore. It has some of the absolute best action of the entire MCU with awesome fight choreography that's thrilling, exhilarating, it's exciting. It has a nicely constructed plot line that has gigantic implications on a personal level for our lead character as well as for the MCU as a whole. And while doing all of this and being more mature, it does manage to have just the right moments to put in just a little bit of levity, a little bit of humor without going too far, too cheap, or too cheesy with any of the humor. Then we have the Avengers. With this film, Kevin Feige and Joss Whedon did the impossible. They found a way to pull in multiple different superheroes from multiple different franchises that each have their own tone and create a unified film that feels consistent with what's come before and doesn't compromise its integrity or tone at all. They did it, and they set the pattern that everyone else has been trying to copy for the last 10 years.
You did it! Congratulations!
Now, to do this, Whedon wisely decided to have a streamlined narrative that's fairly straightforward, doesn't have a ton of subplots, that just provides lots of opportunity for our heroes to interact with each other, have conflict, have banter, to have fun with them, but also just set up these slam, bang, crowd-pleasing action sequences, and that's what the movie does so well. So by the time you get to the third act, every one of our heroes gets a moment to shine, everybody gets a moment to crack a joke, and it just puts a big, gigantic grin on your face. Then we have Man of Steel, Zack Snyder's reimagining of Superman, and it's a film that took me a while to fully appreciate. When I first saw it in the theater, I liked it, but I wasn't sure what to make of all the ways in which they changed the character because I was so used to the Richard Donner version of Superman. And this was a 21st century reinterpretation. But every time I've watched it, I've liked it and appreciated it even more. And have grown to just love this new version of the character. A big part of that is Henry Cavill plays this kind of more complex version of the character that's trying to balance these two worlds that he's a part of, and he's figuring out how to be a superhero. We're watching him on day one of being Superman and learning what that means. Also, you've got what I would say is Hans Zimmer's best score. I might not have loved this one when I first saw it, but I certainly do now. In sixth place, Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, they first announced this movie just a few months after the Avengers came out, and I thought Kevin Feige and the MCU had absolutely, after the Avengers came out, and I thought Kevin Feige and the MCU had absolutely lost their minds that they were taking a chance on this obscure property.
What a bunch of a-holes.
Pretty good.
And then I went and watched the film, and it was one of the most pleasant surprises I have ever had in a movie theater. James Gunn poured his heart and soul into just crafting these broken characters that find family in one another. Each one of them is engaging and entertaining on their own, but they're so much better when they come together. Add to that, it has one of the absolute best soundtracks of the 21st century, and you get one of the most personal films in the entire MCU. In fifth place, Captain America Civil War, one of the ultimate examples of the MCU's long-form storytelling that's able to blend together multiple different franchises together. It's a logical follow-up to both Captain America the Winter Soldier as well as Avengers Age of Ultron, while setting up Black Panther and then eventually Black Widow at the same time. It's a movie that just does a great job of taking the journey that they've already taken characters on and using that to its advantage to where you can efficiently create this conflict between our heroes where we understand where both Steve Rogers and Tony Stark are coming from and why they have very different conclusions. And the audience themselves are much like the characters in the film, still debating who was right and why. That's when you have earned, meaningful drama and conflict. It's got action, it's got humor, most importantly, it has complex storytelling and drama. Another great entry from the movie. Then we have Iron Man. Compared to what the MCU has become now, this film feels very restrained by comparison. But because this movie doesn't have the weight of the rest of the franchise on its shoulders, it doesn't have to try and outdo the last film while connecting to the next film. It's able to simply tell a story about a man and his redemptive journey. It's able to lock in on Tony Stark and let us get to know him before his transformation, understand why he changed, and watch what who he becomes because of all of it. And in a bunch of little ways, this movie is even more powerful when you rewatch it after Endgame, because so much of the dialogue has so much more meaning.
You're gonna kill yourself, Tony. I'm not gonna be a part of it.
I shouldn't be alive unless it was for a reason. I just finally know what I have to do.
The first movie in the MCU is still one of the best. Real quick, before I give you my top three, be sure to join me down below in the comment section to share your ranking of all 39 MCU and DCEU films together. Also, if you enjoyed this video, a few years back, I ranked all 58 theatrically released Marvel films, and then last year I ranked all 45 theatrically released DC films. If you enjoyed this type of content, be sure to check out those videos to hear my thoughts on all the other theatrically released films in the main two franchises. In third place, Avengers Endgame. The conclusion to the Infinity Saga can properly and truly be called epic. It is massive in scope and size. Because of where Infinity War left things, we get to see our Avengers in a new way as we see how each of them responds to utter in devastating defeat.
Likewise,
Likewise, because the defeat was so great, it gives any glimmer of hope so much meaning and makes the movie have so much payoff as you move into the slam bang epic finale, where this movie is like the ultimate example of fan service done right. This movie was one Thor Bowski away from being the #1 spot on this list. This is a truly marvelous finale to an epic saga. Our runner-up, Zack Snyder's Justice League. When they announced the Snyder Cut was actually going to be released, I was as excited as anyone, but I assumed it would be ambitious but flawed. And then I watched it, and I was blown away by how good it actually was. Zack Snyder pulled it off.
You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
Because the movie has a 4-hour runtime, Snyder was able to very slowly and meticulously move all the pieces, all the plot lines, set everything up in a meaningful way where everyone has a rich character arc throughout the film. So when you move...
The fucking spoilers. I watch these things because it's so funny. I can't.
Howdy ho, howdy ho, howdy ho, because can I have a kiss? Oh shit! Yeah!
I fucking hate you.
Everybody dying.
This here is SCP-096. He's a total asshole who is. Walk! Ben, you know what this makes me feel like? What? You know
He's walked through camera.
He can mute himself. How's it going? The scaling star in front of me is Christopher Columbus. Why are you punching me?
He's a loser.
Today we're going to be rummaging through the SCP containment facility, and we're going to be running from an SCP. Which SCP? And it's the scary one. They're all kind of scary. All right, everybody get your crowbars. Everybody's going to need their crowbars out, because it's might have to beat the shit out of something, like this little white horse right here.
White horse?
Hey, fuck
you. Both are white horse.
All right, Jeff, let's go. All right, guys, we have to get in here. Oh, we can't open them. You fucking bitch! You bitch!
Do we have to contain him in there?
Well, he's already breached. Oh my god! Put him in there. Put him in there. I'll shut the door. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh my god. Put him in there. I'll shut the door.
Oh my god. All I can see is face.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. never gonna leave. He's just gonna stay there. That's it. I have an idea. I'll distract him, and you run. Okay, if you're the one dying, that's okay. Wow. Maybe we can stick around him. Maybe. What? What's going on now? Oh my god. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, why did you?
This fucking guy. Oh shit.
Oh, Jesus. Whoa. Oh, my
God, it's all so long.
Listen, I don't know what these do, so I'm gonna make you.
Whoa! Oh my god, Big, what are you doing? No, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this.
I don't know what this does.
Oh god damn it!
Oh my
Oh, that's why we need to turn the electric off.
Why?
Jeff tried to walk through there and he got electrocuted.
Oh shit, get ready to turn
Wait,
off.
I should leave the door open and then we need to turn the electric off. Turn all the electric off. Try walking through now.
Turn it off. It's still on.
Oh, I just turned it off.
Alright, I'm walking through. You got it! Where did we come from? Where did we go? What did you, Frisky, you ass! You son of a bitch!
Suicide!
On him!
He died.
Okay, we're safe. Oh wait, no, it didn't kill Frisky. He killed himself.
I killed myself. Suicide, man. I'm not letting that thing take me.
You're a dick. All right, let's go. Where? Where'd you go?
Wait,
we're going back this way. We gotta go this way. Where the hell are you? Where'd you go?
Jesus Christ!
Where are you? Go
Jesus.
this way. This is not fair.
Sitting on the toilet.
Oh, oh Jesus Christ! Please! Oh, I got while he was pooping. Where is the SCP?
Oh my god!
Whoa! You're gonna attack!
Good guy, he's right here.
Oh.
Well, you got all of us. You accomplished nothing. You died and you put us.
My god, what kind of missions are we having to accomplish here? I don't.
Ficello de Black Diamond, des collations de fromage à effilocher qui comblent l'appétit et l'imagination des enfants.
It's all different. You don't.
First step, grab you take for our fallen friend.
Mike, we always hated you and used you for the sick-ass animation.
It will be the last freaking video.
And now we're actually quite sad because
That's one video. So.
No more animation.
The views weren't quite the same without Mike.
The views were never quite the same. Bree, what are you doing?
YouTube revenue.
Bree, what are you doing? Bree.
Some say that these stupid horses that capitalize off of memes still roam these halls today.
Is this fucking Ghost Hunters?
Hey guys,
Animations.
Hey guys, this is Animations here.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another video introducing Pimation's best inventor extraordinaire. Alright, so what are we doing today, folks? What are we doing, everybody?
Well, we're gonna be filming a video with Pimation. all right, guys. So I've been in the Cully Labs cooking up some things. We've been talking to the cool engineers.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like engineers, but like engineers, but like cool engineers.
Is
a Home Depot parking
your
lot.
name for child laborers?
Wait,
Child.
what about child laborers? What's going on?
I love fruit.
Fruit.
Yeah, but fruitcake is the abominable, concoction of both fruit and cake. It is disgusting.
Dude, fruitcake is just banana bread with Skittles in it.
Look, I'm not gonna trust anything from a guy who wears a fucking pot on his head, okay?
Hey, trust me.
What are you, Johnny Appleseed? Get the fuck out of here, man. I don't need this shit.
I plant trees of knowledge. Fuck
No, you plant apple trees and you put.
Guys.
Oh, Jesus Christ! What is that thing? What do you have to confess exactly?
I've ascended into memehood.
Oh, are you becoming a meme?
How dare
I
you?
am the meme. No longer shall I run from my creations.
You're running from
Die!
No longer will she run from her creations, but rather she will be running from herself. That's the only solution. Vote Trump 2017. 26, 2020. Vote Kanye 20 something. Holy shit.
I don't hear it anymore.
Vote Breezy, name of the year.
Oh my god.
See, now I am safe. You are also.
Hey, it's me.
Wait, what?
I'm alright, dude.
Ow. I'm safe too. I blocked myself out. Yep. That's what I thought. You were not safe. You liar.
I turned around on the entire fucking base of these fucking creatures.
There it goes. There she goes again.
I wanna replay of that.
Oh, okay. That really did scare me. Oh my god. I'm armed and dangerous. I'm gonna fight back against the Scourge. It is Breezy the meme.
I am the meme. Okay. I don't know. Guys. Wait.
Oh, you. It's gone. It's gone.
It's chasing me now. It's chasing me.
I hear it.
I don't know. I don't know why my children. I don't know why my children are turning on me. I created them. They are an aspect
Marie,
of
have
me.
you seen any movies at all? They didn't ask to be created, and you did it anyway. You are the reason they are so like. No, that ain't right. Fuck off.
Bing. They're held. Oh my god.
No, oh my god. See, I told you shouldn't have tried to. When you birthed these things, you decided it would be a good idea to make more than one.
Well, when you have extra ingredients.
We're doing this again with the fences.
What?
We're setting up defenses.
I'm done. I'm gonna go find one so it can kill me now.
Oh. Guys, I know how to solve this. I seriously know how to solve this. Guys, we have. I was hiding in an area where they don't usually go up there, right? They don't usually hop up there, and it just hopped up there with ease. It just hopped up there with ease.
That is
all right,
not
guys,
okay.
Guys, hey, folks. I think I understand how to tame them. How? We need to speak reason into them. All they know is hate and killing. We need to show them love.
Like North Carolinians?
Dude, I am in a fucking cage. I actually caged myself in. Like there's walls and a fucking. No,
That
dang it.
never works.
You can't show them that you're afraid of them because if they smell your fear,
They can smell fear. Always remember that, Vince. Always remember that shit.
Don't fear them.
I may have gotten myself stuck in your cage.
What? Oh, here, hold on a second. I'm coming. I'm on my way. I'm gonna save you before the freaking breezies get to you. Never mind. You're gonna.
Oh God! Finally, I could not find anyone.
Like, what do you have to say to everyone watching this clip of our last moments?
Don't play with memes. They are dangerous.
This is what happens every time you play with internet memes.
We have to build a meme.
Alright, so if we go down here, we should find the source of the meme.
Skinny boy, so. Skinny boy in the Christmas man.
Did you hear that?
I hear that.
Hurry now! Hurry! Oh Jesus!
Oh Jesus!
Oh,
Jesus!
You look just like them. You look just like them.
We're because the memes are me. Apparently my creation is turned against me, which by the way, disclaimer, I didn't actually create the mod. Please don't sue me. But my children, they didn't actually do what they were supposed to do. They criticized us.
You know, I got a question for you. Are you proud of this? Are you proud of setting these news here?
I mean, I get to watch Bing die, so kind of.
I have a real question for you. What did you want these memes to do?
What was the plan for these memes?
I wanted them to protect Americans and keep them from having Ebola.
What you did do?
What is that?
I wish you could zoom in on it too.
I don't know what I expected.
That's one of our videos. You know exactly what you expected. You know what else blows? This one! Oh my god! Oh, okay, it went the other way. It went the other way. No, it's going the opposite direction.
Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. No, Jesus.
Look, I love how we're just sliding down.
Hi.
No.
Wait. Oh!
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, hey.
Okay, I have a plan.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That is like the third time in a minute.
Nice plan.
We have to wrap things up with a small speech from High Nations.
Oh, his speaking skills are being put to the test.
Here you go, man.
Oh, no. All right. Fuck.
Shit.
Ass.
All right, so
Titties.
Is it?
I hope you all learned something.
You know what I
Ladies and
learned?
gentlemen.
Sweaty balls.
No. Trust me when I say that. You know, sometimes I wish I didn't exist.
Sometimes I wish you guys didn't exist either.
Alright. So before end the stream. So yeah. If you guys didn't join us, yeah. Sorry about that. So see you on the next video streams. Bye bye.